On today's show, the LA Clippers are officially back. Preseason begins on Saturday. What are three things to look for in this first preseason game and in the preseason in general? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On We're Back Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and beginning my 20th season as a Clipper fan in this first preseason game on Saturday. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, NBA, WNBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Or I want you to let me know some things that you're looking forward to looking at in this first preseason game. And before we talk about that, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's for any sport you can think of. FanDuel has the goods, and the MLB playoffs begin today. So happy MLB playoffs Saturday for all you. Happy Clipper return game. You know, preseason is not my cup of tea. I've emphasized that to a lot of people. But, I mean, if you're a Clipper fan and you're excited for the season, get to see the boys back in action. What I'm looking forward to seeing is our boys in those new uniforms that I need to be getting ASAP. But it's going to be so special to see that. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about a couple of aspects that I'm looking for in this preseason. And that is the James Harden stuff. There's been so much conversation about the imprint that he's made on the team. I just want to see what it looks like, especially because Kawhi Leonard's probably not going to play in the preseason. So we're going to get a glimpse of what the games are going to be like without, Kawhi. And that could be a frequent thing this season, and what Harden's going to do in those games. And then also the guy that just got new contracts, see if they look to make an imprint. And then the new boys that people are saying, debating on minutes with. So let's talk about James Harden. I was going to make an episode, and I still might, about the imprint that James Harden is making at training camp. Because last year when we were in Hawaii, it was all about, this is Russell Westbrook and Bones Hyland's camp. It was very lively. Everybody kept talking about the vibes are good. The pace was being pushed, and it was a lot of emphasis on cardio. It looks like this offseason, Ty Lue is still putting a big emphasis on cardio and conditioning. Now, here's the one thing. If you recall last season, we definitely ran out of gas. It was an older team that hit a wall after the All-Star break. Paul George had a slump, but he was actually okay during that stretch. Kawhi was solid, but it was really James Harden who was struggling after the All-Star break, and he was one of the biggest reasons that we were 26-5 in that best stretch of the season that we had, and he just wasn't creating the same advantages in pick and roll. He was just a step slower, wasn't turning that corner off of screens the same way. So when you take away his pick and roll game, that's really all he's got right now. He's not the same ISO specialist that he once was, just based on, his hamstring injury and getting older. And you're asking a lot of a 35-year-old, or last year was 34. So when his jumper is not falling, and it could be, usually it's going to fall, but it was, some games will be hit, some games will be missed. That affects him a lot more nowadays as opposed to when he could still get in the paint at will. But some takeaways, some big quotes from James in this preseason, or should I say in this training camp. And he said the other day, this is the best shape I've been in. Start of the season, he said, I'm going to be the best shape I've been in 5, 6, 7 years. I don't really want to talk. I just want to go out there and show it. So let me just say that. That's incredible to hear if you're a Clipper fan. James Harden made similar comments 2 years ago when he talked about how much weight he had lost, because I'll tell you, in 2018 and 19, which technically that's 7 years ago is 2017. So if you want to go 6, 7 years ago, or even 5 years ago, I don't believe that James Harden is in better shape than that. Obviously, he's throwing out that number, but if he's actually calculating, like if you go look at what James Harden looked like those years, he's not in as good a shape now. It's not even being mean. It's like he was in his prime, and he was literally like he had an incredible, not to sound weird, but an incredible basketball body. He was super strong. He was quick. He was much more slim than he is now. But that's okay. He's gotten older. He's had injuries. It's normal. But I will say he does look slimmer than last year. And when he had, everybody talked about the fat suit when he was trying to get out of Houston, and he definitely did gain some weight. And then he had the hamstring injury, so he wasn't able to play as much in the offseason. So going into the 2021-22 season, he was not in very good shape, and Kevin Durant allegedly wasn't happy with it. And then 2022-23, his first full season with Philly, he got into better shape, and he made that joke that he had lost 100 pounds in the offseason. But that was the season where everybody was like, oh, he looks slimmer, and he came out looking much better. Obviously averaged 20 points, 11 assists en route to being the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, he was the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And then played against he was the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference against the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, Philadelphia versus Brooklyn, and they played Boston second round. This season he looks like he's in very good shape. There's been some pictures shared where he looks pretty slim, pretty lean for James Harden standards, and ripped for anyone's standards, but lean for James Harden standards the last couple of years. And that could bode pretty well. What if he comes out with a little bit of I don't want to say a newfound rejuvenated burst, but a little bit more burst than last season, a little more speed than last season, and he's able to average that 20 points with ease. There was a stretch last season where he didn't score 20 points for a long time. I think 20 points has to be his average this season, and I'm pretty confident it will be. But as far as him saying he's in the best shape he's been in, that's a very encouraging sign. Even if it's the best shape he's been in 4 years, that's huge. He's here in LA, he's home. He knows the added responsibility he's going to have. And I'm not sure if he's looking for one more big contract. I mean, if he plays fantastic this year and the Clippers overachieve, he could opt out of that last year and then try to get one more big payday, which, again, I would not be a fan of the Clippers giving Kawhi or James Harden any big paydays anymore. They're already on the older side. I don't believe that this team is a championship team, but I still believe it can be very good, and James Harden's a very large reason for that. Now, so for those that are playing fantasy basketball, with James Harden saying that, especially given the responsibility he's going to have, I would pick him up in fantasy. As far as some other quotes, somebody asked him, what have you done to adjust to the NBA? And I actually think James Harden gave a very solid answer. It might come off as egotistical, but it's kind of true. He said, I'm one of the people the NBA had to adjust to. And that's very true. People started copying that extra step back that used to be a travel back in the day. And by the letter of the law, it might not be a travel. You have that whole gather step stuff now. So then people started copying that. So in that way, you can, James Harden is somebody that, I don't want to use the word revolutionize the game, but he brought certain moves in that people started imitating. So in that sense, he is an evolutionary, I guess you can say. And then, of course, the 2021-22 rule changes that lasted half the season, where they were trying to curtail foul baiting and some of those rip-throughs and foul baiting tactics that they considered non-basketball moves. That was fully due to James Harden being one of the main reasons for that. So James Harden is right. The league had to adjust to him. You had guys guarding him behind his back in the playoffs at times. You had guys tucking their hands behind their back because he was so sharp about drawing fouls. So he's right about that. And also, James said one more thing. Or actually, no, it was Ty Lue. He said, we're going to go back to what James did in Houston. So expect a lot of James handling the ball, high usage rate. Last year, he was 5th or 6th in time of possession. I think he'll be top 3 or 4 in time of possession this year. And it's going to be a lot of reliance on James Harden to create shots. So I'm just, with Kawhi Leonard out, I see people saying this is James Harden's team because of his leadership. He's more of a vocal leader than Kawhi. He's a floor general. So, pick and roll camp where he takes the bigs and runs a bunch of pick and rolls at them after practice. So you're starting to see some leadership qualities in James Harden's own way. And as I mentioned in the last episode, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard weren't exactly guys that embraced responsibility that way. Kawhi Leonard is more of a lead by example guy, but Russell Westbrook was really the guy that had that leadership personality. But then he was demoted to the bench, so he kind of wasn't able to feel like he didn't feel like he was able to really make that imprint. So now it's James Harden, getting his chance in his first full year as a Clipper, even though he basically played every game last season for us, to make his mark here in his second season as a Clipper. So we'll see how that goes. Pick and roll camp, we'll see how the bigs look with him. But his leadership is something that's really stuck out so far in the early days of training camp. Even Brian Seaman mentioned it in a tweet. He's been everywhere. He's been active. Nico Batum even said he's been impressive in training camp. So let's see how it translates on the court. What I'm looking forward to seeing is just how sharp James Harden looks and what the team can look like without Kawhi Leonard. Can James Harden hold us down? I think against the bad teams, no doubt about it. Against the good teams, I'm still a little skeptical at this age. But coming up, going to be looking at the contract boys. Victor Zubats and Terance Mann. What do I want to see from them this preseason? I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is a great place to get fantastic deals last minute on tickets for whatever event you need to go to. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I was trying to go to a baseball game with Game Time, but it just didn't materialize. However, I'm going to be using it in the future, maybe even for Clipper games, but give it a shot, whether it be NFL, maybe NFL. Rams games are very expensive. NFL games are very expensive, so Game Time could be good for that. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Woo. All right, so talking about James Harden in the first segment, he's a guy who is looking to take on that bigger role. I think he's got no problem with it. They also asked him how he felt about, did he feel kind of sad given the way that this team wants to compete about Westbrook and Paul George leaving? And he said, nah, immediately. And I think part of that is, one, this team believes that they didn't lose much with Paul George and Russ. I genuinely believe that the vibe they've given off is that they haven't lost much. And two, I don't think James Harden minds taking on a little bit more of a responsibility. Stats are going to be better. I know he's into all that. So he's going to have the ball in his hands more. He did coin himself the system, so now he's going to be systeming even more. So I think he's looking forward to that, especially, new stadium, his home city. I think all that he's going to be down for. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. James, I will say, man, I'm just looking at the pictures of these guys wearing the new uniforms, and I'm just in awe. So it's pretty special. It really is. But let's talk about the contract boys, Ivica Zubac and Terance Mann. So as far as Zoo goes, they keep saying, and when I say they, I mean the team, keep saying like, oh, we're going to feed Zoo more. We're going to look at him more in the post. Zubac has made comments already through media day and training camp that I feel as though not many people can guard me in the post. I'm very good there. So we need to feed this guy. And there's no better place to start than right here in preseason against the Golden State Warriors at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Feed the guy on the left block 3 to 4 times at least, especially without Kawhi. He should be getting at least 5 of those post touches per game. James Harden is going to be in charge of feeding him mainly, and I think he's going to do it. He's got to do it. Can't just be a pick and roll guy. Feed Zubats, especially if James Harden's one pass away. Make them try to double one pass away. If they don't, hopefully Zubats can, work on his passing out of double teams. That's what these reps should be for. So I'm looking forward to seeing Zoo. He also looks a little bit slimmer. On the subject of guys looking slimmer, he's looked a little slimmer to me in the videos and pictures of training camp. So let's see if he can play 30 minutes. Like, he won't be playing 30 minutes in training camp. I don't think anybody will. But I just want to see what he looks like out there. And then, of course, Terance Mann. So a lot's been made of his contract, whether they overpaid or not. I obviously don't think we did, but I think a lot of it's contingent on me believing that Terance Mann's three-point shooting is going to be good this year. He's not going to have that slump he had last year. I mean, if he has a slump, it might be 4 or 5 games, but not 2 months. So it's a huge season for Terance to prove that he lived up to his contract, that he was worth that contract. And I think the main key for him is just letting it fly without hesitation. Given who James Harden is, given who Kawhi Leonard is, teams are going to sag off. They're going to load up. They're going to sit in the gaps. They're going to dare Terance Mann to make the open three. And he needs to let it fly with confidence. Last season, what happened was he started missing, he got in his head, and he was hurting our offense by not shooting open shots. And then the second half of the season, he started shooting much better, and in the playoffs, he shot well, which, he seems to always do. But he's got a bigger contract now. I don't think a guy that's making $16 million a year should be coming off the bench. Although Norman Powell makes $19 million a year and comes off the bench, but he's one of the best sixth men in the league. Terance Mann, in my opinion, has to solidify a starting position, and the way he's going to do that is by shooting that three with confidence, not hesitating. And then what's going to happen is if he starts shooting with confidence and he starts making it at, let's say, a 37, 38% clip, teams will likely start closing out. And if not, keep on letting it fly. So I'm looking forward to seeing if Terance Mann has an added aggression on both ends of the floor now that he's been given his contract. I also want to see if maybe he's got some creation juice. Because Norman Powell and Terance Mann, they're probably outside of KPJ and Bones, and we know that Terance and Norm are going to be playing more. They're our best candidates to create offense outside of Harden, Zoo, and Kawhi. So I want to see what it looks like. I mean, we've seen glimpses in the past of Terance Mann, but here's the thing. In pick and roll, for example, teams are going to go under the screen with Terance because they want to dare him to shoot, and he's not a great shooter off the dribble. So he's going to have to prove to people that he can do that before he starts creating real advantages in pick and roll. I personally don't think Terance is much of a creator. I think he's a guy that feeds off of others and is a gritty guy and does all the little things. But I would love, of course, if he did have some creation juice in the bag that we just haven't seen enough of. So that's what I'm looking forward to with these two is, are we going to actually throw Zubats the ball more in the post? I think that starts in preseason. And is Terance Mann going to let it fly? But coming up, the new boys. What am I looking forward to seeing from them in preseason? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And as far as NBA, opening night bets are live and well. The Boston Celtics are -4.5 for the opening game against the Knicks. Honestly, I don't know who to take on that. I would stay away from that one. It's just too unpredictable. Minnesota, they changed it. It was -1.5 against the Lakers. Now it's -2.5. I don't know what's changed there, but I would honestly take the Wolves there. Indiana Pacers are -6 at Detroit on opening night. I would definitely take that with Indiana. And then Milwaukee and Philadelphia on day 2 of the league. I think that's definitely going to be a nationally televised game. That's Paul George's debut as a Sixer. Line is -4.5 in favor of Philly. So, go to FanDuel for all of your betting needs here. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right. So to close it out, the new boys. I saw a video of Kai Jones going between his legs in practice. Now, I know it's practice, means nothing, but he's dunking between his legs. This guy clearly has a lot of raw athleticism, which we already knew. But the question is, how good of an NBA basketball player is he still? This is a guy who's played for a bad team in the Charlotte Hornets and showed nothing, and then tweeted that he wanted to be traded or that he was requesting a trade. People have wondered about his mental health. Is he sane? The most games he's played in an NBA season is 46 in the 2022-23 season, and he averaged 3 points and 3 rebounds in 12 minutes. So there's not much to go off there. He was the 19th pick in the 2021 draft from Texas. He's currently 23 years old. So he's still very young. What can he do? I think training camp will be remember, he's not even guaranteed a spot on the roster. I think training camp will be a great way to show the team. Preseason will be a way to show the team, like, look, I belong here. Give me that last two-way contract. Because there's still one two-way contract to be given out. So I'm looking forward to Kai Jones. And then, obviously, Derrick Jones Jr., I think you're going to see a lot of those lobs between Harden and him the same way you saw Russ catch those lobs in the baseline. I think Derrick Jones and Harden are going to link up for a lot of those. But I already know what Derrick Jones can do. Nika Batum returning, that's amazing. But I'm looking forward to seeing Kevin Porter Jr. How much run is he going to get in preseason? Because that's the way. If he looks really, really good, that's how he can guarantee himself more minutes to start the season. I know preseason wins and losses don't matter, but the way you're looking on the court, that matters. You're showing the coach something. It's the chance for Ty Lue and his coaching staff to practice things. I also want to see what it looks like out there defensively with Jeff Van Gundy's schemes. You know, are they going to show all of their cards right now? Probably not. But are they going to show some schematic things and test some things out? Absolutely. That's what preseason's for. Kevin Porter Jr., though, what he can do on the ball, how much he can create for others, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And then even though he's not a new guy, Bones Hyland, you know what, you see him posing in the uniforms, and sometimes you forget that he's even still on the team. He's very well liked by fans. I feel like so many fans in Clipper Nation have wanted him to get an opportunity for a very long time. The reason why I just don't feel as though he's going to have a big role in this team or will be on the team much longer is because when you get a bucket getter guy that can create a little bit and be someone that comes in a game and scores 20 points like Kevin Porter Jr., that's essentially like upgrading from Bones. And that doesn't make me feel very confident in terms of Bones Hyland's future with the team. And I don't know if it's because he wasn't a good sport potentially last year when he was a third string. He came in during garbage time many times and just chucked and would just dilly-dallied on the ball and looked like he didn't care. Like if you look at our net rating with that third unit in garbage time, it was kind of atrocious, but I don't really care because the game's already over at that point. But he did still have that amazing game at Chicago where James Harden didn't play and Bones showed what he could do. But without a very consistent role as that backup guard, he did not really show us anything last year. It was kind of a wasted year of his development coming off of 2022-23 where he was our backup point guard for Westbrook. So I don't know about Bones. I'm interested to see if he gets burned in preseason, how much burn he gets, what he looks like out there. Because you never know. Bones Hyland could get 20 points and everyone's talking about we shouldn't sleep on Bones. You know, we shouldn't sleep on Bones. So it's going to be interesting to see in totality. I'm looking forward to seeing what a non-Kawhi Clipper team looks like and how big James Harden's imprint is going to be on it, how much slimmer he really looks out on that court. And then, of course, the contract boys of Zoo and Terance. Is Zoo going to actually get fed the ball in the post? Is Terance Mann going to let it fly? And then the new boys, what Kai Jones can do, what Kevin Porter Jr. can do. Even though he's not new, what Bones Hyland still has left to show us. But 4 o'clock, Golden State Warriors should be fun. I'll have an episode out on Sunday to talk about it. Maybe even Monday, but probably Sunday because it's one day after, so I should do it Sunday. Oh, baby. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Remember, if you can't listen on YouTube, can't watch on YouTube, you can always listen on audio. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. The only 5-day-a-week Clipper podcast in our first year in the Intuit Dome. Every second of it will be covered right here. Go Clippers, go Dodgers. It's a good day to be an LA sports fan. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.